a South African going into the bourbon territories. Yeah, it's not the first time, and I must admit I've tasted some really good bourbons or some American whiskies with the E, and quite enjoy some of them. Weller 12, for example, was really a nice whiskey for me, and of course there's some really good Jack Daniels out there, not the number 7, I was not a fan. Jim Beam, not a fan, but Larceny, and yeah, I'm slowly making my way through some of the expressions that they have in the US. Living in Belgium, not easy to find it. I was quite surprised to find some Blantons. Yeah, they're quite a nice whiskey, a little bit of a hit and miss for me, the different expressions that they have, but if you keep on looking, you'll find something nice. So Maker's Mark, this is my second attempt. The previous one was the 101. I must admit it was quite a nice whiskey, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed that intensity, the sweetness, my type of whiskey. So this one, of course, a little bit lower proof, 45% ABV. And it looks like it's the entry-level Maker's Mark. Love the simplicity of the label. Love the little waxiness, although it's quite a pain in the ass to take the plastic or that wax seal off, so open the bottle. But of course, it's for me, it's all about the nosing and the tasting. When we talk about the mash bill, we're talking about red winter wheat. We're talking about the corn, and they're talking about the malted barley, so a little bit of a mixture. There is a percentage in it, but that's too scientific for me. I don't really care. For me, of course, it's about the nosing and the tasting. It's something that I like. It's something that I would appreciate. I am a Scotch drinker. Full disclosure, I'm just dipping my toes into the US of A whiskies with the E, and yeah, seeing if I can find something that is to my nose and to my taste. So this one, lovely color to it. It is natural color, if I believe. I don't think you guys do the stupidness of adding color to whiskey. Well, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure there's somebody that will tell me super fast. If you're the first time seeing my channel, for me, I don't really like to go dig too much, especially watch other people's review on it, because that taints your view. You might then it's very, if you start looking at, this tastes like rotten feet, when that picture comes to mind, and when you do it yourself, you might think yourself, if they get it, there must be some rotten feet in here. So I don't dig too much. It's just about the nosing and tasting and having fun with a whiskey. And of course, if you watch all my videos, you'll see in which direction I like the sweet ones, Pedro Jimenez, Sherry Cask. Also a very good bourbon cask is quite nice for me, light summery whiskey. So this one tonight, cheers. Now, I did see some information, and they were saying about 6-7 years old. And so it is a young whiskey compared to a Scotch whiskey. We would call it a no-age statement whiskey. Anything less than 10 years, you know, there's a little snobbiness in everybody. The nose go up. We want something that's 10 years at least. But lately, no age statement whiskey, or NAS, is something that has been popping up more and more frequently. And people are proud of the fact that it's a no age statement whiskey. And they throw a silly price of over €100 sometime for that no age statement whiskey. So yeah, things are changing. Times are getting very difficult for us to find a decent whiskey, sometimes at a reasonable price. So on this one, on the nose, it is not for me a typical bourbon note. That corny note. It is there, but I have to refer to the previous experiences, starting with a Jack Daniel's number 7 bin, I think we call it, and maybe even the Wild Turkey 101, as well as maybe Jim Beam. Horrible stuff. Window cleaner for me, but it's got that corny note. This one seems to hide it a little bit, so it's not that in your face strangeness, but for me as a Scotch drinker, there's definitely a strangeness, and you quite pick it up that this is definitely not a whiskey from Scotland. So there's a little bit of an unfamiliar territory for me. And I'm slowly getting used to it. Now, this one, if you pour it, there's quite an intensity to it. But a little bit time in the glass, it does change quite a lot. That volatility seems to go down quite fast. It's not intense, but there's a little bit of a lightness for me. But it's like in between. Between the intensity and being very mellow, so right down in the middle for me. So it can go both ways, especially if you wake it up a little bit. It does go a little bit more intense. I get a little bit of a vanilla. There's a little bit of a custard note for me. And then I get some oak. Definitely a little bit of an oakiness to it. Not a dusty oak note, but you can actually smell that oak cask coming through. And I do like it. It reminds me of my dad. He used to make furniture, and he used to work exclusively with oak. And when you plane that pieces of wood, you get that oakiness, that oak smell, and especially if you start varnishing it, really nice, great memories. So there's a little bit of a cereal note, but just a hint of that, and I'm not a cereal fan, so I can smell it a little bit of that. And what I also get, which is a little strange for me, years ago when I was still in South Africa, I made my own brandy from start to finish, from grape to brandy. And I love that. That is one of the most, relaxing things that you can do, is to make your own spirit. And I used to buy grapes, loads and buckets full of grapes, crush it, and then I put some yeast in it. Now, if you give it a day or two and you open a bucket, I get that hint of that yeastiness of the grapes, especially the dark grapes. The black grapes, I get a little bit of that. Strange one, but that brings back loads and loads of memories for me. Now, this one does not shout super friendly, because there is that little harshness, just a hint of it, just above that balance point. It does calm down, but it's not something that I would pick up sometimes when I have a light bourbon, a Scotch whiskey with just an ex-bourbon cask. You get that lovely apples, light summeriness. This is just like one step on top of that. Not overly friendly, but it's still in the friendly zone. But of course, we need to drink it as well. Cheers. Now, 46% ABV. It doesn't drink that way. In fact, it drinks like 40%. It feels a little bit watered down for me. That initial sip, there was a sweetness, but it's not a huge sweet punch in the face. But it is. It feels a little bit more watered down, and then I get that sweetness, and then I get a little bit of a. Well, I can't say it's a lot of oak. It's surprisingly at 6-7 years old in a hot temperature. I would expect maybe to find a little bit oak, but on this one, not much. Let me just try again. Cheers. Now I get a little bit of an oak on the second sip, and it feels like it's all of a sudden it has been tempered up a little bit proof up. I'm definitely getting that 45% now, a little hotness appearing, even a little chili bite. When I get the caramels, and I get the vanillas, and then I get that oak. So it's a little slow curve into a little bit of an oakiness, which is actually quite well balanced. I also pick up a little bit of a sour note, so sweet and sour at the end. It just pulls your mouth in a little bit. Just want to make sure. Cheers. A little bit of an oak, and I think it is well balanced, or a good balance between the sweetness and the oakiness. Quite pleasant actually, and yeah, but that sour note in the end, I just feel it. Oh, it feels a little bit on the sour side, but it's a tad of that, not much. So definitely an interesting one, but I think if I compare it to the higher ABV stuff, if I compare it to the Maker's Mark 101 as an example, I think the Maker's Mark 101 for me is a much better, much more balanced, and a much more complex whiskey than this one. Nothing wrong with it. I'm sure loads and loads of people love it. And definitely something that I would recommend. My friends all over the world, give it a try. Let me know in the comment what you think. Is there something that you would recommend to other people? Or are you scoffing and say, listen, this is entry-level stuff, this is kid stuff, we don't look at these things anymore? Be gentle. I am a newbie in your territory, and while I do like some good American whiskies, American straight bourbon, Kentucky straight bourbon, this one, let me know in the comment what you think, and what should I try in your opinion, which is a much better bourbon from the US. So thank you very much for watching. Please remember to like, share and subscribe, and I see you next time. Cheers.